computer or your phone, your iPad on mute at all times when you are not talking. And if you have any technical difficulties or things are coming up, I'm happy to help troubleshoot if I can. So feel free to send me a message in the chat. And there will hopefully be lots of time for questions and engagement. So if those come up for you, you have something you want to talk about, please let us know. But mostly before we get started, I just want to say thank you. We're really happy that you are all here, and happy Earth Day.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. And we are so happy to have you guys, and thank you for joining our International Mother Earth Day event, roundtable discussion, my, your, and our SDG. Hey, happy Mother Earth Day, and we all know that we love traveling, and we miss traveling, and then we love great nature. Picture. Here is Bali, and Mount Fuji. Those are beautiful picture, which usually we use to celebrate Earth Day, but then we don't want to go to the beautiful picture. Instead, we want to talk about something more, issue we may cause some, sustainability in our society. Right. My name, I will be your moderator. Somebody is not on mute. Can you make mute so I can, sometimes I hear in my noise sound. Thank you. Okay. My name is Tomoyuki Shibata. I am a co-founder and executive director at the GEH Lab Global Lab. I'm also associate professor at Northern Illinois University. I teach in environmental health, epidemiology, and water quality. I'm a former visiting professor at the Institute of Technology Bandung, Indonesia. I have a multidisciplinary background, including health sciences, environmental study, and engineering. Okay. My area of expertise include global health and SDG education. Today, I'm so honored to present our, great, outstanding young professional as well as student, Adwight from University of Miami, Asha from American University, Chit Wit Wu from West Yangon University, Heidi from UCLA, and the Karl, as he has own business. He's an artist. Okay. Today's discussion is very casual, but we have a structure. We are going to introduce what's sustainability and SDG, and then we are going to share our own SDG, and then followed by what we can do to promote more SDG and make a difference locally and internationally. And then speaking of internationally, we are going to introduce our upcoming event, International Symposium for the Sustainable Development Goal. And then we will have a Q&A session. In 20th century, it's all about mass production and mass consumption. This motto made us, wealthy. Okay, this kind of, we, produce and we sell more, and then we purchase more. This kind of, it's a kind of basic model for most of developed nations. Okay, then we realized in 80s that we cannot just consume all natural resources. And then 80s are, a second environmental movement in the US. The first was in 1960 by Rachel Carson, and then 1980s, we have an environmental and ecology movement. We always talk about, recycling. So the picture is actually my apartment complex is, dumpster. So we actually purchase a lot, and we waste a lot. So this is still, we have like waste, wasting society, right? And then 1980s, we start discussing what is sustainable development. According to United Nations, the definition of sustainable development is development that meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own need. So that means that don't use everything, leave it for the next generation. That is a sustainable development concept. This sustainable development concept was adapted or incorporated into Millennium Development Goals. Okay, that was our first, one of the largest, global agenda. Okay, so like country from all over the world agree to participate this United Nations agenda, which consists of 8 goals. This MDG include goal number 7, sustainable, ensure sustainable environment. This sustainable environment focus on kind of a conventional aspects such as natural resources and protect diversity, but then start including something beyond natural resources, including access to water and sanitation. That is not talking about natural water. That's talking about the water we need. Okay, and also slum dwelling. So that is people living in the extreme poverty. So even when we are talking about ensuring environmental sustainability, we started thinking about how environment, not only physical natural environment, but also our social environment or life, human environment affect human life. Okay, so for example, access to water that directly affect child mortality, right? And also slum dwelling is as a result of extreme poverty. Then after 2015, we have another second largest world agenda, global agenda, which is Sustainable Development Goal, SDGs. Instead of 8 goals, those 8 goals from MDG expanded into 17 goals. Okay, we used to focus on natural resources like air, water, or energy, but then we are expanding definition of sustainability. Okay, definition of sustainability from natural resources to more like social, sustainability too. Okay, so including no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry innovation and infrastructure, reduce inequality, sustainable city and community, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, and partnership for the goals. So these are goals we are actually promoting, and then these 70 goals have extra 169 target. Okay, so we have so many targets we want to contribute to achieving those big targets. This is a picture I took a couple of years ago, but then I've seen almost exactly same scene when I visited the Philippines, 1986. I was youth goodwill ambassador. So we visited those low middle income country to cultural exchange. But then we stopped by those poorest city and the poorest community people who are living and working in landfill. So ever since I saw, child like, him or her, we wanted to, help them to improve their health and also well-being. So instead of focus on, children themselves, my passion is to improve scientific evidence, okay, that affect, children's life, based on MDG, like poverty, education, gender equality, maternal health, HIV, sustainable environment. All of them directly and indirectly affect child health. Okay, so we publish, at the end of MDG, so 2015, to still to keep promoting child health centered MDG beyond 2015. Then using same concept, I want to promote, good health and well-being through, protecting or improving physical and social environment. Okay, picture or diagram on the right, that is SDG. So all SDG directly and indirectly affect, those human health and well-being. So this is my, area of expertise and, education I, promote. And then speaking of education, I want my passion include fostering the next generation of leaders, including today's panelist. Okay, so I'd like to introduce, today's panelist. So, and then I want you to introduce yourself, and also, I want to you to describe what's your experience, what's your passion, what's SDG you want to make a difference. Okay. First, Heidi.
Hi, everyone. So a little bit of background about me. I am one of the co-founders with Dr. Shibata and the director of programs and operations for Global Environmental Health Lab. So we work really closely together. I'm also currently getting my PhD at UCLA in health policy and management. Most of my research interests and sort of study passions are really within sort of the social determinants of health. I look at things like how does migration impact an individual or their family back home, their ability to access healthcare. And yeah, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. My interest in the SDGs and sort of my connection to the SDGs really goes way back, and it starts with my work in political science and human rights. I got engaged with the United Nations really through the human rights framework, the human rights treaties, and did a lot of work in sort of those aspects of the United Nations. I also was really happy to see Lisa Parker on the call today, who is the founder of Peace Day Philly, which is another way that I engaged with some of the UN mechanisms through activities around the International Day of Peace. So while the UN is like this big, huge organization that just does so much and it literally involves the entire world, there really are a lot of different avenues and mechanisms for people who are maybe teachers or academics or artists or community members, healthcare workers, whatever your particular passion or skill set is, there are ways and avenues for you to connect. And that's one of the things that I really have loved about the Sustainable Development Goals is from the beginning, they've been set up for ways for individuals and communities and organizations to get involved. So one of the ways that I did that was in 2015, when they were getting ready to fully design and decide what the goals were going to be. They actually put out surveys all over the internet, and they actually did face-to-face ones in places where internet access wasn't as predominant. And me, just as a regular citizen, could go online and tell them what was important in my community, what issues mattered the most. And if you had thoughts on how they should be measured or what targets or indicators could best show people if you'd achieve that goal, you got to contribute that as well. So I feel this great sense of pride and engagement that I got to be involved early on in thinking about the SDGs. And in that vein, they actually have a lot of different materials on their website to show you how you can get involved too. There's actually one guide I love called The Lazy Person's Guide to Changing the World. And I'll put the link in the chat when I finish talking. And it just has basic, simple things you can do in your everyday life to help contribute to the SDGs. And so as we hear from the different panelists today, I encourage you to think about what it means in kind of your life. And I just want to take maybe like 1 minute to go over some of the goals that are important to me. Peace, justice, and strong institutions. Coming from a political science and human rights framework, I feel that the actual institutions and the structures you set up are just critical to everything else that's going on, such as reducing inequalities, the structures that are in place and the powers that have a lot to say about what you can do and can't do at an individual level. Being someone in the field of public health, coming from a family of healthcare professionals, I obviously really care a lot about good health and well-being. So that's another goal that is close to me and really connects to a lot of the work that I do. One final point is one of the ways we use the SDGs in our organization, GEH Lab, is as a way to connect across fields, across languages, across countries. Different from the SDGs, different from the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, the SDGs actually apply to every country in the world, and they were adapted completely unanimously. Every single country agreed to them. The Millennium Development Goals before it really applied to developing countries and to poor countries, and the SDGs apply worldwide. When you're talking to someone who perhaps is a chemist and an expert in water, or someone who is a surgeon, or someone perhaps who's a physicist, these goals give us a common language and a common framework to work toward improving lives. So that's one of the things we really like about it. The top picture here is taken at University of Mandalay. And I don't know if you can read it, but it says Department of Zoology. So several of the students in this picture were from zoology. And I'm not a zoologist. I can't speak the language of zoology, yet we're able to collaborate through using the SDGs. So I think that's all I'll say, but I will, again, put the link in the chat, and I'm happy to talk with you guys more afterwards.
Thank you, Heidi. Okay. Next, Adwight.
Thanks, Heidi, and thank you, Dr. Shiba, for inviting me to be part of this great group of panelists today. So my name is Adwight, and I'm a rising fourth year medical student from the University of Miami, where I'm pursuing a dual degree in both medicine and public health. And I had the opportunity to join Dr. Shiba and Heidi in Global Environmental Health Lab almost over 3 years ago now, during my first year of medical school. And I was drawn immediately to really their mission to provide real efforts to achieve a lot of these sustainable development goals. And so as an aspiring public health physician, I saw it as an opportunity to really build my skill set and gain a better understanding of global health issues that I felt that I could personally make a difference in, given my personal background and passions. So early on in my medical education, I found I was particularly fascinated by diseases of the head and neck area, especially head and neck cancers and their association with tobacco use and alcohol consumption, which are two of the biggest risk factors for what is a highly preventable disease. And for many patients, these cancers can spread to involve various areas of their throat and mouth, and those can have serious effects on taste and swallowing, and unfortunately result in major disfigurement and loss of essential functions and quality of life. So that same year when I joined GEH, we were planning our trip to Indonesia, where I learned that Indonesia actually had the highest smoking rate in the world, with over 70% of men over the age of 12 consuming cigarettes. And when I did some research on my own, I also found that head and neck cancers, not surprisingly, were also the highest cancer by incidence, but this wasn't really reported in any literature that we found. So I wanted to really get some information on knowledge and perceptions regarding tobacco use and head and neck cancer while I was in Indonesia. So I went to Makassar, which is the largest city in eastern Indonesia, and Indonesia as a whole has over 270 million people. So the burden of smoking and cancer was pretty high and not really acknowledged on the global level. So I sought out to answer these questions with the help of the local community. And in doing so, I was able to sit down with patients at the local hospitals, including head and neck cancer patients, some of the local healthcare workers and hospital administrators, as well as government officials. And during that time, you can see in that top right picture, one of our team members actually administering a survey that we translated to the local language and gave to these patients to assess their knowledge and perceptions of how smoking might be affecting their health. But while we were in Indonesia, I actually found myself contributing to even larger efforts to reduce tobacco consumption. And this was through establishment of the Center for Tobacco Control in Makassar, which aimed to stop tobacco advertising and prohibit tobacco smoking in public spaces, and also address some of the major gender disparities in tobacco consumption, especially given that women only comprised about 3 to 5% of the total smokers in Indonesia. Another thing that we did there, given my interest in non-communicable disease prevention, we actually created some hospital intake forms for hospitals to use to document a lot of patient risk factors for other diseases that are very prevalent in Indonesia, particularly diabetes and heart disease and respiratory diseases. And so by doing so, we were able to lay down a foundation for future work that could be sustained by the local Indonesian community in the coming years. And I'm excited to share that actually our team recently published a study that assessed those knowledge of head and neck cancer risk factors and smoking behaviors, with the goal of really providing a framework for community screenings in the future, and also health education and recommendations for educating the public on these risk factors. One of the most, I think, important things that I learned while I was there was to really listen, whether it's your patients or community members or the team. And it's amazing how much you can learn just from allowing the person to tell their story. So before going to Indonesia or any other country, you can learn a lot through your own research, but a lot of what will answer some of the questions will be just through interviews with the local community and seeing what problems that they face on a day-to-day basis. So really the two SDGs that I felt like I could really make an effort to contribute to were the SDGs 3 and 4, which were good health and well-being, as well as quality education. So as a future healthcare professional, I recognize that a lot of my value comes not only what I can do in the clinic and operating room for patients, but also in empowering these patients to protect their own health through a healthy diet and lifestyle. And obviously, it's hard to talk about these things without mentioning really the pandemic that we're all going through. And so a lot of these issues actually become even more important as people either experience a delay in their care with a physician and often have to deal with a lot of these problems on their own before they can get that attention. So these SDGs in particular, I feel, have really given me meaning to some of the goals I want to achieve as a future public health physician.
Thank you, Adwight. Right. Next one is Asha.
Yes, it is me. So my name's Asha Coutrier, and currently I am the Grants Associate at GEH Lab. I've been interning with GEH for almost a year at this point, and it's been a great experience. Additionally, I'm also a master's student at American University. Going a little bit more into my education, I'm studying international affairs with a focus in global governance. And the way I understand global governance or choose to research it is through international development aid and sustainable development and things of that nature. Additionally, I also got my bachelor's in 2 degrees. I got my degree in political science and international studies with a focus in sustainability and development. So I kept that same theme throughout my education. And Dr. Shiba, you can skip to the next slide. I felt like the SDGs that really stood out to me were 11 and 12, mostly because I've done quite a few Model United Nations conferences. So throughout these conferences, a common theme is how do we go about creating sustainable development? And the way I chose to address sustainable development was through both the communities and responsible consumption and production. So in the coursework I have taken and the research I have done on my own, most of that has pertained to smart cities, urban development, implementing sustainable and ethical consumption and production and things of that nature. So I picked those 2 mostly because they have been the ones that have spoken to me throughout my academic career. And I believe that they're the ones that I'll probably continue to build on and work towards in the future.
Yeah, Asha. Right. Next, Chit.
Yes. Hi, hello everyone. I am Dr. Chu Yu. I am from Myanmar. I am a lecturer from the Department of Industrial Chemistry and West Yangon University. Now, currently, I am a Fulbright US ASEAN visiting scholar and Dr. Tomoyuki Shibata. So now we are doing research together. My bachelor and master degree in industrial chemistry from West Yangon University were both centered exclusively on water treatment, and my PhD in chemical engineering from De La Salle University was modeling and simulation of biodiesel fuel in combustion engine, and also I did the research related with the combustion characteristic of fuel in the School of Energy Science in Kyoto University. Dr. Shiva, please move the next slide. Regarding SDG, I would like to talk about the SDG 4, the quality education. The education is a key to the national growth and prosperity. In Myanmar has made strong progress in improving the quality of education, but we have the many challenges. The key challenges in Myanmar include the limitations in the quality of education services at all levels of education and the number of qualified teachers, as well as the weak school infrastructure and outdated teaching method. Strengthening teaching and learning policy and the system, the improving learning environments and enhancing the capacity of the educational personnel are vital. So for example, in my department, we have limited experience in collaboration beyond its discipline. So now I'm after learning from the other university, including NIU. So I noted that we need to expand our knowledge beyond the boundaries and improve our research skills, especially I would like to explore my student knowledge beyond the university, for example, beyond the boundary. So in the figure, you can see one of the figure, the man explaining the operation at the factory to my students. So this is a very much with the university and the industry. So my department is the industrial chemistry. So we are working together with the university and also the factory. So I would like to improve these activities in the future for our students and for our teacher. And also I am planning to share my knowledge and skill from NIU to my college in Myanmar to improve our quality of education in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chit. And the next, Karl, we are so happy to have you, you're a professional outside academia. And it is really, really important for us to, like work with beyond academia. That's like just Chit said that, You are muted.
Oh, sorry. Thank you very much, Dr. Shiba and Heidi, for having me on the panel today. I am here because I am outside of academia, but I am a volunteer and I support the SDGs, and I'm fascinated actually by them since ever since my wife Heidi actually was part of a working group through the UN when I first discovered them. And it really inspired me as just an everyday person to be able to get involved and participate in making our world more sustainable, more equitable for everyone. And I was really very inspired by all of the SDGs, but for today I picked out two of them. Particularly SDG 17, the partnerships for the goals, and SDG 11, which I share with Asha, the sustainable cities and communities. And I wanted to sort of draw attention to those two because my direct support for the SDGs began when I was a member of the UNA, the United Nations Association, Brooklyn chapter. It was a place where I could learn more about it, and I began to volunteer using my skill set as a photographer and videographer to provide content in supporting the organization, which they in turn can use in social media and communications, such as newsletters and annual reports and so on. I also had a great pleasure of accompanying the GEH lab on one of the trips to Myanmar, where I was able to support them also with photography and video for use in building an archive that'll continue to support the growth of the organization and their partners as well around the world. And I've always been involved in and active in volunteerism in my community, not always through photography. But when I became a small business owner, it became very important, a very important part of my business plan to give back to the local community that supported my business. So it was that symbiotic relationship that speaks to me in terms of the sustainable aspect of the goals set forth by the UN. It's often the case that smaller nonprofit organizations really have a great story and big impacts on people, but rarely do they have the budget for visual communications or even the time and or volunteer resources to focus on getting that message out. So my goal is really to provide the visual assets to organizations that can then leverage those assets in a variety of ways. Grant proposals, raising awareness, and of course, hopefully inspiring action. So that's really my primary support. It just allows me to contribute back to the community that it enriches my life. And I think everybody's got something to contribute. Just as a community supports an individual, so too an individual can support the community.
Thank you, Karl. So next is our SDGs. So, as Heidi explained, we are a small, non-profit organization, but then our teams are from all over the world, from Africa, Asia to, Americas. And then we conducted many capacity building projects in local setting. But then, we have been to many different universities and hosted many workshops, hands-on workshop, and then over 1,000 participants. We are engaged. We engage and helping them to improve their capacity, and they're the teacher and they're the future teacher to foster next generation of leader. And then last year, so since GEH, we have been to those Southeast Asia every year, but then because of COVID-19, we didn't go, Southeast Asia last year. And then this year also we canceled, traveling to, our study, project site. But then we decided we have to still do something. We have to reconnect with local people. Okay, because our children and youth are our future, and then it is for education is a key to make a difference. And then speaking of education, we have to make sure all students, all learners gain knowledge and skill to promote sustainable development. But then it's not just sustainable lifestyle. We want to emphasize that without human rights, without gender equality, without culture of peace, non-violence, we cannot promote sustainable development. So it is important for us to get together to help them to educate for the next generation. Okay, as we discuss, I'm a professional, so I've been to many different conferences. Some are just biology, some are chemistry, some are public health. We tend to meet with only within the discipline. Then it's easier for us to discuss. But then in order for us to keep promoting and make a difference in SDGs, we have to work with scientists, technology, engineer, art, and mathematician. We have to work beyond discipline. And then just because we are in academia, that doesn't mean that we cannot work with citizen scientists. They have a lot of passion, and then we have to provide opportunity for those citizen scientists to work better research project. And then all our research findings should be shared with government, NGO, and industry. Then they can actually make a new policy, or they can create a new product better for society today and the future. Then because of the COVID-19, many of conference closed and they become virtual, and they still most of virtual conferences are so expensive, and for professional or student, every time we go to conference, like we spend a couple $100 just for only one talk. So we want to actually provide a better opportunity, better virtual platform for stakeholders from different fields, from government, academia to industry, and the community leader to share knowledge and practice. So we are hosting an international symposium for the sustainable development goal in Myanmar and beyond. This symposium also showcase how passionate individual, group, organization at all levels who want to contribute, who want to make a difference in SDG. Because we want to accommodate, or we want to give many opportunity people from all over the world. Many of the presentation will be recorded presentation, but then we will have a live session. And then this is not the research conference, not only research conference, but also you can share your practice, you can share passion, you can share your creative contents. Okay, so we are kind of trying out new way to share our knowledge and practice, people from all over the world. And then this is crazy, like, because we are from all over the world, from not only West Coast, East Coast, but Asia to Africa. So it's hard to pick up that right time for live session. But that we will have a live session in the weekend, prior to the International Youth Day that we want to promote. So this is just an idea. I will share with you detailed information. And then, in addition to live session, all recorded presentation and, artwork will be accessible, from August 6th to August 12th. That is International Youth Day. And then, we are still working on the, all logistics. And I'm sorry, I'm currently, creating and grading final exams. So after that, I will more focus on this, activity. And but May 5th, that's that's Children's Day, Japanese actually holiday. So it will open for abstract and creative content, and then we will open for registration, and then all abstract and creative content deadline is June 22nd, and then August 2nd we will close registration, and then we will have a live session between August 7th to 8th, and then we will together we will celebrate the International Youth Day on August 12th. And then registration, we will collect from participant, will be used to promote more education and support teacher and student, because we have been working with Indonesia. Myanmar. And speaking of Myanmar, I want to talk about what's going on in Myanmar.
I'm happy to talk about Myanmar. Myanmar rich and diverse natural resources are under pressure from internal reforms and the economic liberalization and the global trends, including climate change. The key driver of change include developments in the energy, industry, and the urban sectors, and land use change and the deforestation. If Myanmar does not manage its natural resources properly, it could lead to resource inefficiency and exacerbate inequality in the country. Globally, our country is widely considered one of the countries most vulnerable to environmental degradation, climate change, and extreme weather events. So So due to these natural disasters, so our children, the thousands of children in Myanmar are affecting these natural disasters in the recent years. And also in the educations, the Myanmar has temporarily closed schools, universities, and college to maintain the spread of COVID-19 since March 23, 2020. So it's almost 1 year. But we try during this COVID-19 to ensure the continuity of the education and to prepare the safe reopening of the school, but unfortunately it's failed. And also we have so many challenges for our students. The students, they cannot afford to buy the laptops and the high-speed internet connection. So even our college and the teacher, they cannot afford to buy this kind of the instrument to catch the online learnings. So we are facing these kind of the challenges. So that is why the Dr. Shiva talked already the International Symposium on Sustainable Development in Myanmar. So we target. So we would like to encourage our students and our teacher not to stop their learning in these difficult situations. So now in my country, so our people are facing so many challenges. So that's why we would like to help our students and our teacher not to stop their learning. So that's why may I request your help and understanding to the Burmese students and teachers. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chit. Okay, so we just set up, so Heidi, you can explain about this one.
So for the International Symposium that we're having this summer, we are not charging any registration fees or any fees to our colleagues in Myanmar. The goal is to really be able to not only provide a platform for them to participate for free, but to actually fundraise to cover the cost of data and internet for all of our student and teacher participants in Myanmar. So in doing that, we are launching a fundraiser to help cover those costs. So if you register to attend the symposium, you not only get to participate and engage over the summer with all of the materials, but you're also through that registration donating to support the participation of local folks. So registration fees will be pretty minimal, about $20 for students. I think it's 35 for 30 for just non-student professionals. And part of that registration fee, which is done through this fundraiser, as I said, will be covering the cost of internet and participation for someone in Myanmar. After this talk today, we will be sending out some emails. We promise we won't bombard you, but just with further information so that if you are interested in participating, you can register and donate a registration fee for someone overseas.
Thank you, Heidi. Okay. Finally, I know that some of you want to have some question, and then we can have a Q&A section, and then let's not share that. Am I still sharing or not? Okay.
Yes, you are still sharing.
Okay. Not sharing.
So if anyone has questions, feel free to just unmute yourself and speak up. If you feel more comfortable, you can type it in the chat and I will read it out. Or if you have comments, if you want to share your experiences with the SDGs. How do we donate? Wonderful question. I will send out a link to everyone, and it is an online GoFundMe page. So it'll take credit cards, you can use PayPal, but I will send out an email afterwards with that information for you.
And then Marcia, donation is great, but I don't want you to just donate. I want you to participate. I want you to, make some creative arts, or you want to make a video, I really want you to join, right?
Dr. Shibata, that's a good question. I'm not in academia. How can I participate in the symposium?
That's a good question, Karl. So as I mentioned earlier, our conference or symposium is, bridging gap or bridging disciplinary from scientists to academia, non-academia, and artists. And then, art is very important for us to disseminate and also inspire. I was inspired by many movies or even National Geographic. You are a photographer, you can share your arts. And then, if you are good at haiku, that is also art too. So anything you can, share your, knowledge or skill, you can participate. And then I'd like to see your arts.
Now, on the submission page, there'll be a place where you get to check what kind of content you want to submit. You'll be able to upload a photo, share a link to a video. If you have an essay or a poem or something along those lines, you can submit that as well.
Great.
Dr. Shiba, so if I wanted to submit an abstract for this, for a project that wasn't conducted in Myanmar, would I still be able to do so for this symposium?
Yes, totally fine. the last, sentence was in Myanmar and beyond. So, for example, many conferences, have, hosted in specific places, but then, people coming from all over the world and present study from different places. So like, you conducted project in Indonesia, that's totally fine. And actually, I'd like you to, present your, project and then align to SDG.
Dr. Shiba, I have a question.
Yes.
So I don't have an SDG related project yet. How can I participate?
Yeah, that's great question. And then, many students don't have actually research project or even like, practical, experience. But then I know that Asha, you were, passionate about, sustainable development. So you can actually create kind of, statement, about yourself. Like, you can create like a 1 minute statement, like, video. Hey, my name is Asha. I wanted to make a difference in SDG 11. That's fine too. Like, I wanted to share your passion to people who don't know you. Any other question?
I have a comment. Adwight, what you're doing interests me. I'm a retired 42-year respiratory therapist. So I know a lot about the smoking and tobacco use. Kept me in business for 42 years, unfortunately. But, and I taught smoking cessation. I enjoyed what you had to say. And maybe someday we could collaborate. And
yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
I'm always excited to work with different professionals within the field, because I learn so much more when I see a different perspective on things. So just like
I think your thing about quality education is super important, because I think the basis on so many of those SDGs is education.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were hoping with some of our studies, was to incorporate a lot of the knowledge that we learned into the higher education, but also at the lower youth levels, so that when people do become of the age where they have to make the decision between smoking or not, or any other substances that might be harmful to their health, they have that knowledge base to really make their own decisions and informed decisions.
Yeah, the statistics on the rate of children becoming smokers or tobacco users, if their parents are, is astronomical. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. So actually, you gave us a great, actually idea. So in this conference, we are not just, presenting one way. So in order for us to more exchange idea, or actually, build our network, we are going to create some kind of that, networking event. And also, Asha, we are talking about, Tinder for nerds, or Tinder for, professionals. Like, we can, you have an expert, you have an interest, and we can match up. We want to create those kind of the opportunity through this, international symposium.
I want to be mindful of our time. It is now 6 o'clock. Are there any other kind of final comments or questions? We're happy to stay on and talk a little longer, but just want to be mindful of that.
I have a question. So like I donate to, I don't know, 5 or 6 nonprofits monthly on my credit card. Can you do that through GEH?
Yes, you can. I'll actually put the link in the chat. You are able to do that. We have a donation page on our website, and when you click on the link, it'll actually, I believe it's for PayPal, give you the option of having it be recurring or a one-time donation.
Okay.
And we really appreciate donations that are recurring. It helps us for planning. It helps us throughout the year. We also do accept, checks or other, sort of one-off Venmo. What is it? Yeah, Venmo, PayPal, GoFundMe, checks.
Okay.
Most of the standard ways. So I'll put the link in the chat, and I'll also send it out in an email afterwards.
Thank you.
If do you have any question? If you don't, thank you for participating in our live discussion, and it's great to see you guys. And then we will see you in August through the virtual conference. Okay, and then almost spring. Even we had a snow. Spring is coming. So I hope see you soon, and happy Earth Day to you guys. Right? Have a good night.
Send your snow to California because we need.
Good night.
Lisa, I see your question that popped up in the chat. If you want to stay on for a few minutes, happy to talk some more about that if you want. I don't know. Sure. Lisa asked a question. She said, can you tell us an experience where the SDGs allowed for communication and collaborations, as was mentioned earlier? Dr. Shiba, do you want to give an example of that? Would you like me to?
Okay. Where is the question?
Oh, it's in a direct message, so I can put it in the.
Okay, so you can talk. Yeah.
So I would say one of the key examples for me was on my first experience in Myanmar. We were in a classroom. There was probably, I don't know, 75 people in the classroom. We were crammed in there. This pre-COVID, obviously, so it's extremely hot. And we had all just had a chance, maybe about 15 different people, to present on our own work. So what do we do? What are we interested in? And everyone in their presentations, myself included, use the language of our own field, right? I was using the language of sort of the social sciences and human rights and different treaty names and acronyms and getting really in the weeds about a particular project, as did everyone. When the chemists were speaking, they had all sorts of equations showing. I really understood the presentations from the International Relations Department, a little bit from the economics and psychology folks, but everyone else was kind of just like going over my head. After these presentations, which were, sort of our morning session, one of our speakers actually needed to move something around, and last minute, we had to totally adjust the schedule, and we decided, let's switch today, and right now let's do an interactive workshop on the SDGs. So Dr. Shiba and I got up in front of the class. We had all of our SDG cards that we have printed out and started handing them out and passing them around to people. And all it was, was a simple card with a couple words on it and a number. And we ran this workshop where small groups got together and just talked about what that SDG meant in their work, in their department, in their classroom, in their, in their own mind or in their own home. And then everybody got up and gave very short talks that were focused on that SDG. And the same content that had been presented a few hours earlier led to where, it was very much, we'll talk at you and you'll listen and you may or may not understand, led to multiple collaborative projects coming out of that workshop later. So we now understood a lot more, and we're speaking the same language to people because we were using the SDGs as a point of connection across our different fields. We had a student who, she works in the pharmaceutical industry. She was getting her master's of public health, and she ended up collaborating with a group of people in the economics department, as well as the chemistry and industrial chemistry department, on a water coagulation method that could also be a potential social business where people could use this in their home. They could develop this technology as a small business and perhaps use it to sort of improve their own economic well-being while also improving water quality in their communities. And earlier we'd had people talking about the same exact thing, water coagulation methods and different water treatment technology. But when they got together and talked about it in the framework of the SDGs, they began speaking the same language and were able to collaborate. And it was just incredibly powerful and a great way to sort of start off our trip. So yeah, it's kind of a long-winded answer, but it was just, I get excited just thinking about it. It was this just really great point of connection for a lot of us who were coming from completely different cultural, religious, language, and academic backgrounds.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, like we speak different language and different, specialization, but then using SDG as a common kind of core language, a common interest. And then, like student faculty from a totally different area. And then most of, participants never talk with student faculty from other department. Even between chemistry and industry chemistry never talk to each other, although they collect same water sample from same river. So that is a, a lack of collaboration interdisciplinary. So, we wanted to actually promote more multidisciplinary team for interdisciplinary, project.
Another example would just be Dr. Shiba and I, we have a paper under review right now. He's an engineer and, does epidemiology. I come from the social sciences and do more like health policy and health services. And we have a paper on the effects of migration on occupational health and access to clean water and sanitation. And so we're a team that's coming from very different backgrounds, and our framework is the SDGs, how we were measuring our outcomes in our study.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, everybody. This has been really fun.
Thank you. Thank you both. Dr. Shiba, you're on mute.
Sorry, again, this is the second time. Thank you for your participation. And, we are so happy to see you guys. And, see you in August or maybe earlier. All right. Have a good night.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye, Lisa. Bye, Lisa. Bye, Lisa.